When we think of the age of exploration, it's easy to picture brave sailors cutting through uncharted seas, discovering new lands, and mapping the edges of the world. It's the story of courage, curiosity, and the human spirit reaching beyond the horizon. But behind those heroic paintings and schoolbook tales lies a much darker story, one of greed, violence, and exploitation that reshaped the world forever. This is the untold side of the Age of Exploration. The 15th and 16th centuries were a time of discovery, but also of conquest. For European powers like Spain, Portugal, England, and the Netherlands, exploration wasn't just about knowledge. It was about empire, gold, and God, three forces that would fuel centuries of domination. Let's go back to 1492, the year that changed everything. Christopher Columbus sails west across the Atlantic, convinced he can reach Asia by a shortcut. When he lands in what he thinks are the Indies, he finds not spices and silk, but people. Entire civilizations, rich with their own traditions, languages, and systems of belief. To Columbus, they are simply Indians. To his patrons, Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, they are a resource, a means to wealth, a workforce. And soon, the islands of the Caribbean become the testing ground for a brutal new order. Columbus himself writes in his journal that the native people are gentle and generous, good to be made servants. Within a few years, that statement becomes prophecy. The Spanish impose the encomienda system, forcing indigenous communities to labor in mines and plantations. Resistance is met with punishment, and punishment often means death. Entire populations vanish in a single generation, not only from violence but from diseases brought by the newcomers. Smallpox, measles, influenza, these invisible invaders travel faster than any ship. They devastate empires older than Europe itself. In Mesoamerica, Hernan Cortés lands in 1519 with a few hundred soldiers. Facing him stands the vast Aztec Empire, with millions of people and a capital more magnificent than anything in Europe. Yet within 2 years, that empire collapses. Cortés burns his ships to ensure no retreat. He allies with enemies of the Aztecs, plays politics like a master. And when disease strikes the city of Tenochtitlan, it becomes an apocalypse. What gunpowder couldn't destroy, smallpox finishes. To the Spanish, this is divine will. To the Aztecs, it's the end of the world. And Cortés is only the beginning. Francisco Pizarro follows in South America, toppling the Inca Empire in a storm of betrayal and greed. In 1532, he meets Emperor Atahualpa under a banner of peace, captures him, demands a ransom of gold, and when the rooms are filled with treasure, he kills him anyway. The gold and silver that flow from the New World to Europe transform economies, fund wars, and make Spain a global superpower. But every coin carries the cost of human lives. In Africa, the story grows darker still. Portugal, the first great maritime empire, builds a network of trading posts along the African coast. At first, it's for spices and gold. But soon, the most profitable commodity becomes human beings. By the mid-1500s, European ships are carrying enslaved Africans across the Atlantic in what would become one of history's greatest atrocities, the transatlantic slave trade. Men, women, and children are captured, chained, and forced aboard ships in conditions so horrific that many never survive the journey. Those who do are sold in the Americas, where they build the wealth of the New World, the sugar plantations of the Caribbean, the mines of Mexico and Peru, and later the tobacco and cotton fields of North America. The age of exploration isn't just about discovery, it's about the birth of a global system built on exploitation. But here's the part that's often forgotten. The explorers themselves didn't always see what they were unleashing. Many saw their actions as service to God and country. They believed they were spreading civilization, not destroying it. Yet, as European maps expanded, indigenous worlds collapsed. The arrival of the Europeans wasn't just a clash of arms, it was a clash of worlds, belief systems, economies, and identities shattered under the weight of colonization. In the Philippines, Ferdinand Magellan's voyage, the one that first circumnavigated the globe, ends in blood. Magellan himself is killed in 1521 in battle against the local ruler Lapu-Lapu. To the Spanish, Magellan dies a hero. To the islanders, he's an invader. And while European powers fight each other for dominance overseas, carving up Africa, Asia, and the Americas, the true victims are those caught in between. Think about this. By the year 1600, European powers had already claimed vast territories on every known continent. In the Caribbean, entire native populations had disappeared. In South America, Incan cities were stripped of their riches. In Africa, kingdoms were torn apart by the slave trade. The age of exploration was the dawn of global unity. It was the dawn of global inequality. Yet, it's not all a story of darkness. Across every conquered land, resistance never truly ended. In the Andes, native revolts challenged Spanish rule for centuries. In West Africa, kingdoms like Benin and Dahomey resisted European domination for as long as they could. Even enslaved people fought back through rebellion, escape, or the preservation of their culture in secret. The modern world was built on their resilience as much as it was on the explorers' ambition. Today, we live in a world that still bears the marks of that era borders, languages, and inequalities that trace back to those first voyages. When we look at a map, we see the legacy of exploration. But when we look closer, we see the scars. The age of exploration gave us new knowledge of the planet. Yes, it connected continents, shared technologies, and expanded human understanding. But it also unleashed centuries of conquest, slavery, and colonization. It turned discovery into domination. So the next time we hear the name Columbus, Magellan, or Cortés, maybe we should remember not just their courage, but their consequences. Because history isn't just the story of those who sailed and conquered, it's also the story of those who were silenced, enslaved, and erased. And if we truly want to understand our world, we can't look away from the dark side of the age of exploration.